Brent Gardner, and this is the NRA-ILA Grassroots News Minute for Friday, May 22nd. Rumor was enough to get you burned at the stake as a witch in Salem, Massachusetts. It was enough to get you shot in Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, and it's enough today in parts of Iraq and Afghanistan. And if U.S. Representative Peter King of New York has his way, it may be enough to prohibit you from acquiring a firearm or federal firearms license, especially if the Attorney General is as opposed to gun ownership as Janet Reno was during the Clinton administration and as Eric Holder is today. Fresh on the heels of a disturbing paper from the Department of Homeland Security characterizing gun owners as right-wing extremists, on April 29th, King introduced H.R. 2159, which he calls the Denying Firearms and Explosives to Dangerous Terrorists Act of 2009. King, the ranking Republican on the House Homeland Security Committee, describes himself as a strong supporter of the war against international terrorism, both at home and abroad. So, without reading the bill, one might assume that H.R. 2159 is a legitimate effort to clamp down on genuine terrorists. However, King and his bill's co-sponsors are extreme gun control supporters, and his bill is intended only to give the executive branch arbitrary, unaccountable power to stop loyal Americans from acquiring firearms. And here's how. H.R. 2159 would give the Attorney General the authority to deny the sale, delivery, or transfer of a firearm, or the issuance of a firearms or explosive license or permit to dangerous terrorists if the Attorney General determines that the transferee is known, or appropriately suspected, to have been engaged in, conducting, constituting, in preparation for, in aid of, or related to terrorism, or providing material support of, and the Attorney General has a reasonable belief that the prospective transferee may use a firearm in connection with the terrorism. H.R. 2159 does not, however, impose any requirements or limits on the information the Attorney General could use to make a determination. And it proposes that any information which the Attorney General relied on for this determination may be withheld from the applicant if the Attorney General determines that disclosure of the information would likely compromise national security. In stark contrast to the scheme proposed in H.R. 2159, federal law currently establishes guidelines for the 9 categories of persons currently prohibited from possessing firearms, and it protects the right of a person to be told why he is prohibited. The latter is important because a person who is not prohibited can be mistaken for someone who is, due to incomplete or incorrect records in the FBI's database of prohibited persons, or due to being mistaken for a prohibited person on the basis of a similar name or other personal information. The trash bin of history is full of politically motivated, authoritarian abuses of people's rights, and as King and his bill's co-sponsors have shown, the concept still remains. NRA has wrapped up its 138th annual meeting and exhibits in Phoenix, Arizona this week. The meeting was a great success, as was NRA-ILA's Grassroots workshop, where 375 staunch pro-gun patriots attended the standing room only workshop. Though most attendees were home state Arizonans, NRA members represented states from across the country. Diversity and geography notwithstanding, all were united in the singular mission of learning what more they could do to affect legislative change in this year and prepare for the 2010 midterm elections. During the workshop breakfast, attendees were treated to remarks from Dick Heller, the plaintiff in the landmark Heller versus D.C. Supreme Court case that struck down Washington, D.C.'s draconian gun ban and affirmed the Second Amendment as an individual right. Mr. Heller spoke about the need for attendees at the workshop and gun owners across the country to continue to carry the torch moving forward to ensure that the impact of the Heller case has practical day applications for America's gun owners. Attendees also heard from NRA Executive Vice President Wayne LaPierre, former NRA President John Sigler, ILA Executive Director Chris Cox, and newly elected NRA President Ron Schmeitz, who, one by one, came to the podium and gave credit for NRA's successes to whom it rightly belongs: our members and grassroots activists. Grassroots staff provided attendees with an overview of the threats and opportunities we currently face in Congress, along with strategies and programs to effectively communicate their views to their lawmakers, and what steps can be taken now to ensure gun owners are registered to vote and prepared for next year's elections. For more on this year's annual meeting in Phoenix and up-to-the-date legislative alerts, please visit www.nraila.org.